Super Smash Con was insane. There hasn't been any point in history with these many upsets at the same time. Mango, who has had his fair share of upsets himself, just solidly ran through the winner's bracket while being ranked 11th. Well, that is pretty cool on its own in isolation. That doesn't even give a glimpse into the inferno that was top 64. Crike beat Moki, Ringler, the Donkey Kong main, beat Bobby Big Balls, and Wally beat Sane. Without being like disrespectful, I've never heard of any of these players before, and I'm guessing a lot of you can relate to me. So if you can relate to what I've said, then it might feel a bit like all of these players came out of nowhere, like they're somewhat new and, you know, have just been practicing for a year or two and then beat the very, very best in the world. But how true is that in reality? How long does it take to actually become a pro like these guys? Let's dive into the stats. So, first of all, how are we gonna go about this? What does it even mean to be pro? Well, like the origin is that you're a professional, but in my mind I think you can start calling yourself a pro at Melee when you're top 100 or top 50, doesn't matter. Which is coincidentally what I'm gonna use for my definition as well. So you are pro when you are power ranked. To define when people started playing Melee, I'm just gonna use their first tournament set on Liquipedia. And I know almost everyone has played before they showed up on Liquipedia, at least before they played a tournament that shows up on Liquipedia. But this is by far the easiest way for me to define it, and I think generally it's only like 1-2 years off maximum. You could as well argue that your Melee career hasn't really begun until you at least participate in a major or big netplay tournament. So I looked at the first tournament match and the first year that they were power ranked for every single PGStatSum ranked player and compiled the data. Well, there were some interesting findings. First of all, the average amount of years it takes for someone to play their first Liquipedia participation to becoming top 100 is 3.8 years. Do you think that's high or low? In my opinion, it's roughly what I expected, around 4 years. Add a little bit because of the Liquipedia first match shit. I also believe it's been shifted up quite a bit because of the pandemic, because a lot of the players that are ranked in 2022 might have also been ranked in 2020 or 2021. Now, sorry if this gets a bit too personal, but do you feel like you're falling behind in Melee? I know at least that's a pretty common question to ask yourself in all disciplines. But if it gives you any sort of reassurance, I would bet most of you that are watching this haven't even begun your Melee career by my definitions, given that not all tournaments end up on Liquipedia. Even if you're one of the fortunate people that have played in a Liquipedia tier tournament, remember that 3.8 years is the average among the very, very best. There are still a lot of people who've been playing for 7 years that only got ranked in the most recent power ranking. Lod, Null and Salt are all examples of this. But if you want to get a bit more inspired, it's also possible to be a lot quicker than the average. Sane, Nun and Toussaint all took roughly a year to get top 100, which is incredibly quick in my opinion. Of course, they probably played Melee a year or two before that, but they didn't begin competing at least until 1 year before they became top 100. In conclusion, if you don't care about your happiness or anything else but getting top 100, you should only start to feel worried and bad after around 4 years. But in reality, I don't think anyone should worry about these stats at all. The truth is that Melee is more than 20 years old, and it's probably gonna live for a lot longer. So if your goal is to become professional and reach a decent level, you have pretty much all the time in the world. There are a lot of smaller steps to climb up before you can begin considering grinding for the top 100. For example, your local power ranking. And maybe when you get to your local power ranking, you realize that you don't really care too much about becoming the very, very best. You could settle for just being the best in your country. Or you just do what the majority does and keep playing competitively just for fun. But that's it. Bye bye.